the question here tells us that a new footbridge was opened. We don't care where it was, and that it's an arc shape like this, which is called a parabola. The length of the span of the arc, A to B, is 48 meters. We can see that from the fact that point B is 48, 0. Halfway through, we can see, is the maximum point here at 24, 0. Now they've told us that the equation of this parabola is y is equal to negative 0.013x squared plus 0.624x. And we want to find this equation in square form. We're going to use that to find the highest point, okay? So they don't tell us explicitly they want it in square form, they want it like this. But that is the square form to have. Instead of having it written like this, we have it written as a factorized square with some constant. So let's see how we do that. First of all, this is your function, so write that out first. Now, the next step is to divide by this term, to divide by the x squared term, to take that outside the brackets. So we've taken it outside the brackets, and now it's here. Now we work with what's inside the brackets. So you take 48, you half it, and you square it. So you go 48 divided by 2 to the power of 2, which is equal to 24 squared. What we do then is 24 squared is the same as negative 24 squared. What we do then is we add that term. Let's add it here, and we subtract that term. The reason we add and subtract is because we don't want to change the function. If we add something to it without balancing it off, we're changing it. We want to keep it the same. But this just lets us put it in another form. So now we use the x squared term, the x term, and the added x term half squared coefficient, the added version of that, we factorize these three. So we group these three together and factorize them. So in this case, a factor of 24 is 24. A factor of 24 squared is 24. So by definition, you can say 24, put it in text here, 24 times 24. 24 times 24 is going to be equal to 24 to the power of 2. And also, the way we choose the sign here is that x times negative 24, and I'll put that in brackets, plus x times negative 24 is going to be equal to negative 48x. So that's what we want. What you want when you factorize something is that when you factorize something like this so that it's in a square form, is that this constant by itself gets you the constant, and this constant multiplied by x and again added to itself gets you the middle term here. Okay, so we've got the middle term, we've got the constant, so this is right. And it's different from normal factorizing where you have two brackets because it's the same numbers. So in this case, it would just be it's the same way as saying x minus 24 times x minus 24. We're just condensing it down. We're condensing it down and putting a 2 here instead. Okay, but it's the same thing. And what we do then with the remaining constants is you leave that on its own then. Sometimes if you had another constant here, like 2 or any, then you'd add that to this, but we don't. So you don't have to worry about it. So now, because we want it in this term, we want to have this constant outside the brackets. So you can multiply that by minus 0.013 and take it outside. And these are still within the brackets. And then carry it across to the other side. And you've got this. And this is your answer, so put a line under this. Check that it matches with what they want, and it does. Perfect. Now what we can learn from this is the maximum point. So the maximum point when you've completed the square is hk, where h is this number and k is this number. Note that these must be negative. If not, then you take the minus of these numbers. So let's see here. In this case it's going to be 24, 7.488, which makes sense. If we look at the question here, it's 24 and 7.488. That looks right, that makes sense. Okay, so the next part then is to, using what you learned in part D above, or otherwise, write down the equation of a different parabola for which the coefficient of x squared is minus 2, and the coordinates of the maximum point are 3, negative 4. Okay, so as we can see here, in this form, p is the x squared coefficient, and these are still maximum points. Okay, so so this here is the maximum point. So instead of this number, we can have 2, or negative 2. That's the coefficient of the x term. Let's do text instead. We can have negative 2. And instead of, the x is the same, instead of this number, so the maximum point is 3, 4. So 3 for the x, and all that to the power of 2. Let's have a look at the other side. It's going to be y minus something. So minus k, minus the other point. So it's minus this number, which is, careful with the minus, is you're going to have minus 4. 2 minuses make a plus, and you get plus 4. And this is your answer.